Do you think that this is the only world that exists? If you've been keeping up with my books, you know that's not what I believe. Could there be another world out there? World of the supernatural? The world of the spiritual? Where angels fight against angels? My name is Dacquino, and our next guest is going to talk about that very thing. Rebecca Cohen, let's talk writing.
All right.
A pleasure to have you here. You know you're hitting me right on my sore spot when you start talking about things like Into the Light. Tell me a little bit about who you are, and then let's talk about this world of good angels and bad angels fighting against each other. Who are you, Rebecca?
I'm basically a writer through and through. I'm working as an entertainment journalist right now.
Wow, an entertainment journalist.
Yeah.
What does an entertainment journalist do?
Pretty much what it sounds like. I do a lot of celebrity interviews.
Wow.
And I go to premieres, and I do a lot of red carpet events.
Wow.
And just anything that's
That
entertainment.
sounds exciting.
It's really exciting. It can be a little intimidating sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it's really exciting getting to talk to people that I've admired and people I've seen on TV, and it kind of puts them as just normal people for me. So now they're just...
Now, do you write out questions beforehand so that you're ready?
I do, but usually I'll play off of what they're saying, so sometimes I go off book. Yeah.
Sounds like this show.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. So you go and you ask them questions and you try to get them to say things that they wouldn't ordinarily say.
Yeah.
That's
Try and
good.
pull as much as you can out of them. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes you get a dead horse.
Now, how did you get into that? Did you just suddenly say, you know what, I think I'll be a celebrity journalist?
I wish it were that easy. No,
No.
I went to school for journalism at SUNY
wow.
Purchase, and got my degree in journalism. And
SUNY Purchase
kind of-
is a great school.
It is. It's a beautiful
I did some
campus.
writing courses there, and I just loved the atmosphere there. There's a freedom of expression that just permeates the air there.
Yeah, it was very into creativity, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So you studied journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn anything there? What I mean, you know, people say you don't have to go to school to be a journalist or to be a writer, but there are some essentials that you can learn through school. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the teachers there were former journalists, so
Yeah,
you
so
learn a
that's-
lot from them. I learned a lot about feature writing.
And there are some basics that you should know as a journalist. Okay, so you go and do these celebrity interviews, and somewhere you went from celebrity interviews to writing books.
Well, actually, it was the other way around.
Oh, okay.
I've been writing, book writing, never published anything until recently, but I've been writing since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Little stories
In the
here
blood.
and there. Yeah.
In the blood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I took out my grandma's typewriter, and I would write on it whenever I went to visit her up in Copiague, really upstate. So, I mean, I've been writing forever.
Yeah, and then you got into this. Now you have an uncle in the closet who's kind of into spiritualism.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, he lives in Israel, and he does a lot of, I guess you would call it preaching in a way, about his beliefs.
He's a preacher.
In a way, yeah. I don't think
okay.
that's his exact title, but he comes to visit every once in a while. And last year he came for a visit, and we were talking about what the Bible believes angels are.
Does he speak English?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, he moved from Florida to Israel.
Okay.
A long time ago. Yeah. So we just got into talking about the whole mythologies of angels and what the Bible believes, and then I kind of took that and just created what I thought would be interesting, because I didn't want to.
Took it and ran with it.
Yeah, I didn't want to insult anybody with what I was writing. You know, like completely change what the Bible says, but I wanted to create a world that I thought would be interesting for.
So this is not a religious book.
No, not at all. Not
And what you did is you took the Bible and you kind of did your own take on it.
Yeah.
And isn't there a touch of mythology in this too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of inspiration when I was writing it, not just from Uncle, but from books I was reading, shows I was watching, movies, and I always had a fascination with what else is there beyond this world.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I've been so into this. You know, after I did Sybil Ludington, Paranormals came to me and said, hey, Vin, can you do for Sybil Luddington? Can you do for the dead people what you did for Sybil Luddington? And I said, what you talking about? And they said, well, listen, we know where the ghosts are. We don't know who they are and why they're there. Can you like investigate these ghosts? Well, I started at Smalley's Inn right here in Carmel, New York. And man, these ghosts have stories. And the more you get into it, the more you realize dead people live here. You know, we're not alone here.
Yeah.
So you got into it, and it sort of went its own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have any set plans on it.
One of the first lines in this book is, there are no such things as coincidence when it comes to matters of the paranormal. So the fact that you wrote this book, I don't think is accidental. Did you find that it just came? Were you just sometimes sitting in that computer and just...
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it takes you over.
Yeah, completely.
Yes. When do you write?
At all hours of the day, mostly at night when you should be sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm writing.
Right. Not me. I'm wide awake with you.
Yeah. My husband's passed out and I'm up writing. So.
Yeah. Now you're married.
Yes.
So what does he think about all this?
He's proud of me. He doesn't.
Good.
He's never read any of my books, and I'm calling him out on that. But he's never read any of my books.
Not a surprise. It's usually, two separate worlds. I don't think my wife has read any of mine. Maybe one. I doubt it. But yeah, that happens. And it's your own world.
Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to go someplace where no one else can go. And that's what I love about writing. It's my world. Mm-hmm. And when I'm there, I'm there. So you've been there. How long did it take you to write this book?
I'd say it probably took me about 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
Now that's 3 months of almost nonstop writing.
Pretty much, yeah.
And if her boss is listening, she didn't do it at work. Maybe lunch hours and breaks, but that's all. So day and night, people ask me that all the time. They say, do you write like every day? When I'm working on a book? Yes. Yeah. Then I take breaks where I don't write at all. I just kind of free my head for a little bit, pay the bills, take care of the yard, fix things that need to be fixed, and then I go right back in again. So do you have a schedule, or you just, when you write, you write?
I need a schedule, but whenever it comes to me, I just write.
Yeah, it's a haunting.
It is.
Yeah.
It's always there.
So this has a very interesting storyline, because there's a little love story in there too. Mm-hmm. The cover, if we can focus on this cover for a second, very provocative cover. If we can't get it now, we'll get it later. But we have a picture of a girl with her shoulder bared, and then it's provocative. So there is a love story in here.
There is.
Give me an idea of what the storyline of this book is.
Well, basically, it's about a girl named Catherine,
Okay.
who is your average senior high school student, very determined to go to law school. And one night she finds out that, that's not your destiny. Your destiny is to help the guides, who are the soldiers of heaven, and fight these fallen angels.
Wow, that's so wild, because in Emails to a Paranormal, and if you look, you'll see that that's also the light, and that's the whole idea, that the Father helps these souls go into the light. He helps them to cross over, and he calls himself an earth angel. And from Earth, he has to help them. But he dies in a car accident, and the son inherits his job. Mm-hmm. And he has to now help Earth angels. And the whole book is how, as he goes through to the end of the book, he realizes what his position and purpose on Earth actually is. So, interesting. So it's the same idea, mm-hmm. that this Earth angel is going to help the people. The other angels appear. Now you have like the good angels versus the bad angels?
Yeah, the good angels, for lack of better terms, are called the guides.
The guides?
Guides, and they basically are in charge of bringing the descended, who are the fallen angels, back into purgatory, where they're supposed to be for eternity and have somehow escaped.
Not into Hades or hell.
No, I didn't want to do anything with
purgatory.
hell. Yeah.
That's funny, because this is the idea here, that there are souls who are trapped in this purgatory, and they can't move on until they've had closure on this life that they lived here. And that the people here can help them find closure so they can go into the light. And here, this is a picture of the family that this kid helps to go into the light. So, what is going on? What is this war all about? I mean, is it an actual war between these two sets of angels?
Yeah, I mean, you
Wow.
don't see a lot of that in the book,
Yeah.
but basically the descended are trying to get back into heaven. And there's this mythical door that if, I think I said like 13 of them get back in, then it completely destroys everything. Heaven, hell, purgatory, everything is just kind of unleashed in a,
Wow.
yeah.
So this whole other world exists out there. So tell me a little bit about the love story part.
Well, basically, Catherine meets her guide, which is Ash, and
And he's a human?
no, he's a soldier of heaven.
Oh, soldier of heaven.
Yeah,
Okay, so
but he actually has his own secret. I'm not going to give it away, but he has his own kind of secret that he's hiding.
slip you $20 later, you tell me a secret.
No, I mean you find out pretty early on, but he's not. The rule is you're not supposed to fall in love with your. We call what I decided to call the Catherine's character is a tracker, so she's supposed to be able to find the descended, and take her guides to them so they can bring them back to purgatory.
So how does she see him? Does she see him in dreams, or does he
No,
appear to her?
He's just walking around basically. Anyone can see
So
him.
he takes a human form?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So he takes his human form, and she doesn't. She's really human.
She's really human, and she doesn't get her abilities to find the descended, the fallen angels, until her 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So would you say that this is a high school book, or is it an everybody book?
It's I don't know if it was specifically high school. It's young adult.
But it will
so-
attract.
Oh yeah,
young
definitely.
adult
Anybody who
readers.
likes
Yeah,
books
I
like The
know.
Mortal Instruments, they'll like this.
I just went to Henhud High School to talk to a group of seniors who were so into this. They actually take a course on horror novels and literature that deals with the supernatural.
That's so cool.
And these kids are so into it. And it's just amazing how right now, when you just go on the TV. I was just on a program called The Dead Files. And these people are so into the supernatural. And more so than I think any era has ever been. And we're becoming more and more in touch with whatever it is out there. And the fact that you created this world, it's not accidental. I keep telling you that. There's no such thing as coincidence. This world needed to be known. And I think the fact that it's known through your book is great. So you created this character, and does it get more and more intense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially towards
rising
the end.
action to a climax where something big happens that changes things, that change the whole story, and then a resolution. But you don't really have a resolution because
It's the first book of a series.
this is the first book of a series. And you're going to write another book after this one.
I'm actually starting. I've already started the second book.
Wow.
Which for some reason I'm having trouble with.
Don't you find that these characters haunt you to death?
They do.
And they keep saying, I'm not through yet. I have more to tell.
Yeah.
You can't stop writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haunt you. A kid asked me one time, he said, Mr. Dacquino, how do I know that I'm a writer? And I said, are you haunted? He said, what do you mean? I said, do you feel that you have to write because like the story's burning in your head? He says, yeah. I said, you're a writer. He said, yeah, I knew that. I said, well, that's good. I used to go and write in the morning or through the night, and then we'd have to go to my mother-in-law's to have dinner. And my mother-in-law would be looking at me and she'll say, stop writing. And I said, what? She said, I can see it in your eyes. You're writing. It's true, isn't it? And then you'd be sitting there and the story is going on and you just would love to get your fingers on that computer. It must drive you nuts at work.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. Especially
Yeah.
since I'm on the computer.
Yeah,
But I can't do any of the
'cause
writing.
It's right there. Oh,
Yeah.
it would make me crazy. I was a school teacher, so I mean, I would be correcting all these compositions and reading all these stories, which I love to do. But man, in the back of my head, it was like, hurry up and go home. Wait till you hear the next chapter.
Oh, yeah.
How do you know? You know, and kids ask me this all the time. How do you know when the chapter is done?
I don't think I ever really do know. It's hard for me to determine that. I know I don't want the chapter to drag on. So usually I'll either end it at a pivotal moment or, you know, where I know the scene's really going to change.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. To leave the author hanging at the end of the chapter. Mario Puzo drove me nuts with The Godfather. I love his style because what he would do is he would start an event. The guy would be standing there just ready to shoot somebody. Chapter ends, and then the next chapter begins somewhere else. It's like, no, you can't do this to me. And I was so tempted to go ahead and find out what the heck was going to happen. And that's a great way to stop. And I tell writers that the best thing you can do as a writer is leave yourself hanging. And don't ever stop at writer's block. Try to carry it through. Now, do you get writer's block?
Way too often.
Yeah, and there's little tricks, you know, and I try to teach some of the writers that one of the ways to do that is to bring a new character in right at that point. And you have so much work to do when you bring a new character in that you don't have time for writer's block. You have things you have to do. The other thing I tell them is that every good novel has 5 tools. I don't care if you're Hemingway, Faulkner, or Joe Jones. Plot, character, setting, theme, and tone. And you have to address those 5 things all the time. And if you have been working on plot, switch to character, or tone, or theme, or setting. And once you switch to those things, again, you have work to do. Is writing work?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fun, but it's work.
It is. I tell writers, don't write a piece, work a piece. And basically what that means is that you could write a story, but then you have to work the story. It has to come off the page. It has to be exciting. It has to be interesting. And you have to feel it as a writer. I mean, that's what I love about writing. I'm the first guy to read the book, you know, and it's got to be good. And if it doesn't excite me and turn me on, it's not going to turn you on.
Yeah.
So it has to be done. Ray Bradbury, who is very famous, you know Ray Bradbury, the writer, he did Fahrenheit 451, 451, and a number of wonderful books. Kid asked him, Mr. Bradbury, how do you know when you're done with the book? And he said, when I can read from the first page to the last without changing a word. I was like, yeah, well, I'd be there for the next 80 years because I am always changing words. So is that the way it is with you? Do you go back and edit before you move on, or do you just keep moving on?
Sometimes I do. When I thought I was done with this book, I went back and added a whole chapter that I thought would make it a little more interesting and get more of a backstory to the main guy in the book.
Yeah. Sometimes I have chapters that I call gifts. They just, from the beginning of the chapter to the end, done. Sometimes they're pains and pains.
Yeah.
Because it's just not happening. And I find sometimes when I try to go out of my writing style or my writing time zone, when I'm just trying to sneak in a chapter, maybe I'll do it like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And I have to leave it alone and come back. And I'll do chapter 2, and I'm not happy with it. I'll do chapter 3, and then come back and do chapter 2. Do you do that? Excuse me.
No, mostly I go in order.
Go in order.
I think it's easier for me.
Yeah.
I know sometimes people say to write the end, but I just like to kind of let it flow.
Yeah, I run a writer's workshop, so I see writers every week. I had a writer who used to make me nuts because he would write chapter 1, then he'd write like chapter 22, and then he'd go back to chapter 2, and then he'd go to chapter 15, and it was just, I'd say, how could you do that? And he said, well, I know where I'm going with it, and I like where I'm going, so I want to write about that now. So he would write a future chapter before he even gets through the beginning. And made me nuts, but it worked for him. And at the end, he would get his chapters and he'd put them in order. And I was like, whoa, can't do that. One thing that is clear, writers have their own style, their own way of writing. And do you feel you know yourself as a writer?
Oh, yeah. I think I pretty much write the same every time, no matter what I'm writing. I mean, obviously, if it's a fantasy book, I'm not going to write it as a complete romance or, something
so
like that.
So you know, and now, do you have an idea? This question comes up all the time. Do I need to write an outline before I write my book? Do you?
I never do.
Never
and I
do.
sometimes
I
I
don't
think I should, but, because I get lost in the characters and I'll forget what, I said in the beginning.
Let the character tell the story.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing for some writers. I tell writers, stop writing the book. And they go, what? I said, stop writing it. Let your characters do it. Let your character breathe. If you create a living character instead of a paper character, a three-dimensional character, that character will live. Jimmy James, in my Kiss the Candy days goodbye, you could ask me any question you want about Jimmy, and I can answer it because I know who the kid is. He's a living, breathing being, and that's what you have to do. You have to get into the characters. Is there any particular character who you really feel that you're connected to?
Probably Catherine, the main character. Yeah, I enjoyed writing her a lot.
Tell me about Catherine. Who is she?
She is a regular high school senior who is determined to go to law school in Harvard. And now she's just trying to accept her new life as a tracker and trying to understand that, hey, your life on Earth, it's pretty much over. You're still alive, but, this is your world now.
But this is only a step to the rest of...
Right. I mean, she's not going to be
rest of eternity.
this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she's pretty sharp.
She is. She's very strong. She's very stubborn. The ultimate lawyer.
Yeah, the lawyer.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you made her a lawyer, so that she could see, a lawyer has to see both sides. That's a thing about writing that I love and hate. A kid asked me one time, he said, what's the hardest thing about writing? And I said, being on both sides of a kiss. He said, what? I said, being on both sides of a kiss. You have to be the boy who kisses the girl and the girl who gets kissed. And you have to know what she's thinking when she gets kissed. And you have to know what he's thinking when he's doing the kissing. So you have to be male and female. You have to be young and old. You have to be stubborn and easygoing. You have to know how people think. Do you find yourself an observer? Are you watching people?
I do. I always people watch. Anywhere I go, my friend and I always go to these conventions at these hotels, and most of the time is spent in the lobby, people watching. I love telling stories in my head about them.
People say to me, what tools do you need as a writer? And I said, the ability to observe. Watch people. Watch the way they talk to each other. Watch the way they not only act, but the way they react. Because you have to do that in your book. When someone says, get out, it depends on who they say it to. And how does that person react? You have to be on both sides of every kiss, every argument, everything. You have to be in people's heads. So you have to watch how people live and act and behave. Excellent. So you've got this book together, and the story's going along. There any parts where the reader is going to go, oh my God?
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I was, as I'm writing it, I knew what I was going to say, but even as I'm writing, I'm like, this is really surprising. I like that.
And an amazing thing, another thing I tell writers, I said, listen to me. Don't write the first line first. And they say, what? How can I not write the first line first? I said, write your first page, finish the book. When you're done, that's when the real writing begins. That's when you start working your book. You go through, and you're going to know things now that you didn't know before when you wrote that first page. Look at this. How many writers pick up a book, read the first page and go.
I
Have
do
you
that
ever done it?
all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
So we have to be so careful that that first page is right. Don't write the first page until you've written the last page. Rebecca, here's the big question. Where are you going with this sequel? What's next?
Well, it continues, starts right at the end of this book, which I won't tell you what it is.
Come on.
No, it's a surprise. And then it just kind of continues on the path of trying to keep these descended out of heaven and keep all the worlds in line and not into chaos.
Sounds wonderful. And you have a website?
I do.
So we can go to your website and ask you questions. And are you willing to help writers who need help?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to do that. I got help from other writers, and I would love to give
Wonderful.
advice.
And we are going to encourage writers to go to you. And we're going to encourage you out there to reach out to Rebecca. Of course, read her books. And you keep writing. And keep sharing all those ideas. I will be honest, I haven't had a chance to finish this book, but I'm telling you right now, I will. You definitely have me turned on, and I do want to read this book. So you should too. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful ideas, your wonderful book. Keep on going. When you finish your sequel, you come right back here.
I definitely will.
That's a deal. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us.